Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Today we're checking out how the US ruined bread.
There is so much good bread in France. On every corner, there is a bakery that is pumping out delicious, fresh, well-made bread.
It's so fresh.
This is not easily available to me, and I want to know why. Why is it that the bread that I can get easily looks very, very different?
Bread is good. Why do we have crap bread, y'all? I reacted to a video recently that mentioned all the different kinds of ways that the food in the United States is different from food in Europe. We have a lot of chemicals in our food that they don't allow over there. So I imagine what he's going to tell us is that we put a lot of crap in our bread, probably a lot of sugar. I have heard that in Ireland, bread at Subway is not legally considered bread. It's more like cake. And you know, it's so simple, isn't it? Isn't it? It's flour and water, right? And a few other things, other stuff to make it puff up and all that, right? I'm not a baker. I have a feeling this video is probably going to bum me out, but won't be the first time, will it? Let's check it out.
Why is it that the US sucks at making bread? In fact, let me just show you what that looks like.
Okay, wait, it's 12 hours earlier, still back in the US. I'm actually at a grocery store right now. This is how a lot of us Americans get our bread.
Yeah.
My favorite part is when they make this plastic look like it's steaming. It's just like foggy plastic to be like, this was just baked right now. And it's like, no, this was actually baked like 3 weeks ago. And
Is that why they do that?
In like Connecticut.
They make the bag look steamy? I didn't know that. That's so deceptive, isn't it?
It's even made with real butter.
Always buy Wonder Bread. You'll be glad you did.
The reason I'm purchasing this bread is because
Wonder
I want to
Bread.
bring it with me to France, just to like have an example lesson, and I may use it as a pillow because it's literally as soft as a Nova foam pillow.
Wonder Bread is probably the most American bread in terms of artificialness of bread. So I think he is weighting things to make the French bread look a lot better. I've no doubt that it is. He's not playing our best player. We do have bakeries that bake fresh bread. Most people get it at the grocery store and it's pre-sliced for sandwiches.
And I may use it as a pillow because it's literally as soft as a Nova foam pillow.
That probably would be
This bag
comfy.
bread is made with ingredients that are literally illegal in the EU.
See?
Back to France, let's do it.
Potassium bromate, azodicarbonamide. What are y'all doing to us? Potassium bromate is a chemical additive commonly used in the food industry to help strengthen dough and enhance the texture of baked goods. So it's compensating for crappy ingredients, making it last longer maybe. Potassium bromate is classified as a possible human carcinogen. Potassium bromate has been found to increase the risk of cancer in animals and act as a free radical causing oxidative damage in lab studies with human liver and intestinal cells. What's this other one? Azodicarbonamide. Chemical substance approved for use as a whitening agent. Just to make the bread whiter? Wow. It's the same stuff that's found in yoga mats. It's used in foamed plastics. Pretty messed up. The ban on this is motivated by weak carcinogenic property of semicarbazide. As of February 2021, in contrast to direct competitors like Wendy's that have phased out the ingredient, A&W continues to use it. Oh, we don't need it. I don't mind my bread being kind of brown or yellow, or whatever color it naturally is. I don't need white bread. I'd rather eat brown bread and not have cancer than have white bread with cancer. I don't think I'm alone.
Back to France, let's do it.
There's nothing more American than Wonder Bread.
Okay, so yeah, we know that France is good at bread and the US sucks at it. Is this just another video where I shit on the USA for being terrible at certain things? Yes, it is.
Yeah, cool, okay.
That's exactly what it is. But hear me out. I actually have something to say here. I believe that bread is a really important symbol for a bigger cultural phenomenon in the US, and that's what I want to talk about today.
You can always depend on Johnny Harris to take it deeper, and I like that about him. Johnny, thank you so much. You're very brilliant. I think these issues need to be raised because we deserve proper bread. We deserve food that doesn't kill us. Don't we?
And that's what I want to talk about today. Where industrialized bread came from, why it exists, and how some people are trying to change it.
I'll get to that explanation, but first I'm going to go into that bakery over there and buy myself a large ball of butter and flour stuffed with chocolate. Okay, so why bread? There's a million other things I could talk about that are better in other parts of the world, but it turns out that bread is the most important prepared food that humans have ever made, and therefore it is worth talking about. So let me explain in under a minute the overview of the tens of thousands of years of history of bread and its chemistry and why it's so important. Don't think I can do it in under a minute? Check this out.
I think you
12,000
can.
years ago, humans realized that they could plant this grass instead of just foraging for it. This grass was called wheat. And when it was ground up with a stone, it made this powder that, if you put water with it, creates this stretchy, goopy thing that has a bunch of sugar from the flour that's been released.
It's fascinating that someone 12,000 years ago thought to grind up the wheat and add water to it. But, how did that happen? To purposefully think to do that is pretty outstanding. I feel like it must have happened by accident. Because why else would you crush wheat and then put water on it? Unless you're trying to make bread. And once they did crush the wheat into a powder and add water to it and got that gloopy Play-Doh stuff, they must have thought it was like they discovered electricity.
Oh, look. Wow. All the bacteria in the air love this sugary goop. And they descend to feast on it, burping out gas as they eat. Whoa, the gas can't float up into the air because it's getting trapped in this stretchy ball of goop, like a balloon, like a pillow, like magic. Magic. All this feasting and burping is making it rise and turn into a pillowy thing that is way bigger than it was. Put this blob next to some fire, and all of the little bubbles that were just created turn hard. Wait, all of this can happen because of this one grass? Yes. Cool, let's plant a lot more of this grass and build all of human civilization off of it, said humans.
I guess it happened so long ago, there's probably of course there's no written record, but we don't know how they stumbled upon it. I know he's being kind of facetious or hyperbolic, whatever the word is, but I don't think they knew that yeast was burping out, I almost said farting, but it's burping out gas. I don't think they knew that. What must they have thought when they baked the first piece of bread? What a breakthrough.
So that is bread, like the oldest and most important prepared food item that humans have ever invented. Eventually, humans got really good at doing this bread, flour, water, yeast thing. And especially here in France, they took it really seriously and have created a whole culture around making bread delicious and amazing.
Who thought to put yeast in the bread? I'm gonna look it up. The ancient Egyptians once again. The earliest known records of yeast-risen bread come from ancient Egypt. How did they figure it out? Maybe the aliens gave us the bread technology.
And you can see that they've continued that culture today just by the number of bakeries that exist in this city. There are 30,000 independent bakeries in France. Compare that to the 3,000 that are in the United States. And then remember that the US has like a much larger population. And if you do all the math, you see that France has 50 times more bakeries per capita than the United States. 50 times. I mean, that is such a clear indication of how much they value good bread.
Okay, when I first saw the number 30,000, I thought he was talking about Paris, but in France. Okay.
With Mr. Local over here.
Yeah. Well, French food in France.
Yes.
94% of Parisians live less than 5 minutes away from a bakery. And that shows you they care. They care. It's like you hear stuff like that, you're like, this is their priority.
Yeah. I live on the same block as a Ralph's. I can walk 2 minutes and be at one, and then there's a grocery store like 1.5 minutes down the street. But they don't have the good bread, they have cancer bread.
And the culture of eating is just as much important here as
how
the
looks good.
ingredients are sourced and prepared and whatnot.
Yeah.
People come into the boulangeries almost on a daily basis, and they check in with each other. It's like, hey, how you doing? I'm doing great. This is what's happening.
That is interesting. He's making me realize that, we eat that sliced bread out of convenience because it's fast. When I think of the standard, easy, quick lunch, it's a sandwich with the cancer bread.
Why? That is the question. Why are these bread cultures so different? And the answer comes down to what America was founded on. I mean, a reminder that America is a country founded by a bunch of people who left their country to go make a new life, to do things differently, to do things more individualistically. And the way that expressed itself for a really long time was mechanization, industrialization. And to be clear, in the history, Britain was as much to blame for all of this mechanizing of bread as America was.
It's insulting.
But anyway, we're talking about the USA for a little bit. So by
Right.
the 1920s, you had this machine that was invented.
An automatic bread slicer. Hello, convenience, innovation, America.
A bread slicer seems so ridiculous now, but I'm sure back then it was such a time saver and such a, like, oh my God, why didn't we think of this? This is such a great thing. Now it seems ridiculous.
No more serrated knife versus a tough, crusty loaf. Now the machine will do it for you. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Oh,
See?
so that's where we're at. This is the greatest thing, says America.
And Europe was like, wait, yeah, we like machines too, but like not for bread. Slice this bread and you make your bread spoil faster. We don't need a machine for sliced bread.
That's a good
But the
point.
automatic slicer was just the beginning for America.
Yeah, you slice that bread up, it gets all dry. And how long does it actually take to slice a couple pieces of bread off of a loaf? Seconds. How much time are we saving? How much time went into the R&D of making a bread slicer compared to how much time it just takes you to slice a couple pieces off the loaf? What are we doing to ourselves? The bread slicer is a distraction.
Now that we have sliced bread that, yes, spoils faster, let's make it, I don't know, not spoil as fast. One way to do this is to take the part of the wheat berry that has oils in it, the husk and the bran, and get rid of it. Focus on the big, carb-loaded berry in the middle.
So the reason for putting cancer in the bread is not to save money, it's so it can be sliced and not spoiled? That's so ridiculous. It's like we're solving a problem with a bigger problem. What are we doing to ourselves? What are we doing?
But there had to be a more industrial solution to make the bread last longer, to be whiter, to be softer. And it's the 1950s, and Europe is like, whoa, dude, America, chill out. Like, bread is just bread. We've been doing this for literally tens of thousands of years. Let's just, like, stick to the program.
Yeah.
And America's like, no. So America starts adding all of this stuff to their bread, bleaches and dough conditioners, and suddenly they're putting their bread into controlled chambers so that it will be hot enough to rise faster. And they're putting preservatives in so that their bread can now sit on a shelf for not just 1 or 2 days like it should, but 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, a whole week, and it's still soft. It is still white. It is still spongy and delicious. But it now has 15 ingredients instead of 3. And it's cheap and convenient and stable. And America is loving this. And Europe is like, whoa, you took this way too far. This is not bread anymore. And indeed, I would argue that this is not bread anymore.
It's a bread product.
A bread-like substance. It's a different product made from a different process, and yet we use the same word for it. If you want to know more about what's inside of this kind of bread, I was actually here making this video when I stumbled upon a video from one of my favorite YouTubers, Adam Ragusia, that's like a deep dive into all of the ingredients in this kind of industrial bread. Definitely go check it out.
Oh,
Somewhere
no.
in the US has taken it so far that they will put in additives that keep it spongy and soft, or that keep it really white, even though these additives are known to like cause cancer and inflame asthma and do all of these terrible things. Many of these additives that are legal to be put in American bread are literally illegal in Europe and many other countries. Azodicarbonamide is one of them.
That's the one we looked
This
up.
is a whitening agent. But you know what? This product, ADA, also helps other things stay softer, like yoga mats. ADA is in yoga mats to make them spongy and soft, and it is banned in the EU and many other countries. Our obsession with convenience, cheapness, softness, shelf life has led us down a really dangerous path, and yet we're totally okay with it somehow.
I think the only reason we're okay with it is because most of us have no idea.
This is why I think bread is a useful symbol for broader American culture. It shows us how far we are willing to go to prioritize things like cheapness and convenience over tried and true methods that have been baked into culture.
Of course, industrialized bread exists here as well. It doesn't have some of the carcinogenic ingredients that are not allowed in the EU, but it still has all of the dough conditioners, bleaches, still artificially risen, all of that. The difference is that it is rare. It is much more rare here. What is much more common is the ability to go to your local bakery and get bread that only has a few ingredients. And it's the ingredients that humans have been using for tens of thousands of years to make this staple food.
The feeling that I generally have is that this is how it should be. And then when I go elsewhere and you have other kinds of bread that last kind of bizarre amounts of time, you know, you're like, this is not really how it should be. You get calibrated to kind of this new standard here, and it kind of ruins you.
I don't usually eat bread. So there are independent bakeries in in my neighborhood. If I go there, can I get regular good old bread? I bet I could, right? They're not going to be putting ADA in their bakery bread, right?
Someone tried to change this in the US a few years ago. A company called Panera
What could be better than a visit to Panera Bread?
tried to bring like European bread culture to the United States. And they did. They had high quality, delicious bread. But what happens next is potentially the best metaphor for America.
No, I like money.
They got a business loan so they could expand. And then they got investors and they started to expand and scale. And then they were purchased in a massive merger. And now they're planning to go public.
And let's put some ADA blah, blah, blah in our bread.
They just became a massive corporation who does not focus on making quality artisan bread. Instead, they're now just a machine pumping out bread that kind of looks and feels like European bread, but is now done in a uniform, mass-produced, industrialized process.
Wow.
All in the name of scale and profit.
Canned bread.
So the question is, why does this matter? Like, am I just being a snob who's like, traditional bread is better and therefore everyone should have it and I hate America?
I don't think so. I don't want cancer bread. I don't know anyone who wants cancer bread. I don't think it's snobby to not want cancer bread.
You're a snob.
No, I'm not.
Kind of, yeah. But also, it actually makes a difference in how it goes into your body. The beauty of bread always was that you could put this goop out in the air and bacteria would come down and start to feast on it and kind of start the digestion process. That is what natural fermentation does.
I don't know if that's the greatest thing about bread. I like the taste of it. I don't think the ancient Egyptians knew about bacteria getting into the bread and doing all this stuff, did they? They didn't know what bacteria was. Maybe they did. Maybe the aliens told them. I don't know what I'm talking about.
The way that we make bread in America doesn't really leave time for this. We use heat and chemicals to speed this process up, to make it rise faster, to make it rise bigger in an artificial, synthetic way. And so you're actually getting a much inferior product to what original bread making looks like and what it produces. Yes, it lasts longer. Yes, it tastes like chewy, pillowy, sugary heaven, but it's not bread
really.
The way that humans have been eating it for tens of thousands of years. Convenience, scale, independence, that is what we love in America. We love shelf life. We love industrialized efficiency. And to me, yeah, all that stuff is super great because it means we get to live these wonderful, prosperous, convenient lives. But I think we lose something really big when we focus on those as the priorities as opposed to quality and community and culture.
To say the least, my friend, you are absolutely 100% right.
Last thing I'll say here is that this is slowly changing. You have a movement in the US of people making some of the best bread in the world using the most traditional methods and ingredients. In these big cities, you have amazing bakeries doing bread that is on par with anything you could get in Europe. And that kind of blows my mind. The problem is, and my critique is that that is still so rare and specialty and really only available to people who live in big urban areas. And meanwhile, the rest of us, the most accessible bread to us is this industrial, mass-produced garbage.
Belongs in the trash!
And that is enough to make me pretty frustrated.
Thank you for this eye-opening video, Johnny Harris. I love the idea that more bakeries are opening up and making actual bread. That's inspiring. I think people are waking up. He didn't mention Subway's bread. Yeah, I guess the Subway bread is not really bread, but man, it does smell good. Is that smell fake too? Observers suggested that it's an artificial scent vented into the streets. Okay, but Subway says no, it's from the actual bread product. The dough is made elsewhere and then they bake it at the store, restaurant. Oh, they also bake cookies there, so that adds to the smell as well. Contains shoe rubber. Okay. That certainly wouldn't cause cancer. The Supreme Court of Ireland ruled that its rolls did not meet the nation's legal definition of bread. Oh, the court ultimately ruled that Subway's bread contained too much added sugar to legally be considered bread, and that it should really be regarded as confectionery. Cake. If you are an executive at a food product corporation, hey, what if we didn't put cancer in the bread? What if we didn't slice bread? What if everyone just agreed that we're not going to slice bread anymore? That wouldn't happen. Yeah, really sad. This makes me want some real bread. Like real bread with some real butter on it? Well, Mr. Harris, Johnny, sir, thank you for an eye-opening video. He's always very thoughtful and very educational, well-done videos. It was a bummer. Well, thank you all for recommending this informative video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.